Shadows of Evil is a renowned map for speedrunners and casuals alike, with its intriguing beast mode mechanics and demonic theming. Later on, many would know about this speedrun after its many reactions from famous YouTubers and high view counts, and it was no surprise, as this speedrun was difficult, having to pull off hard movement and get some serious luck. Well, stick with me as we dive into the history of the Shadows of Evil speedrun. It's 2010, and Call of Duty is the biggest first-person shooter of the decade, and in its fifth game introduced the Zombies game mode. At the time only thought of as a side mode, it would grow in popularity and form a huge community of dedicated players and content creators. And in the game Black Ops 3, Zombies would only get even more popular, as Treyarch would release a long streak of some of its best maps. The launch map of Black Ops 3, Shadows of Evil, being one of the most popular Zombies maps ever made, and soon after would become one of the most competitive speedrun maps of the game mode Zombies. There are many different speedruns per Zombies map, with the most notable ones being the round 30 speedrun, the round 100 speedrun, and the Pack-a-Punch speedrun, but the most popular one is the Easter egg speedrun. Every map since Ascension in Black Ops 1 features an Easter egg quest where the steps are not obvious and takes the community several days to figure out, but once the steps are found, can be very challenging due to having to do all the quests while fighting off zombie hordes, a challenge that becomes even harder when you're up against the clock. The first publicly known speedrun for the map Shadows of Evil is a run completed in 47 minutes and 52 seconds by a player called Plasmid Jeff, who would become a legend in the zombie speedrun community. But this run does not have any surviving footage, so we must first analyse the next run to come out, of 4550 by DarkPoto45. This run was done on last gen, just 5 months after the game was first released. There was no clear route or strategy from the player, it was more like a casual playthrough, where he would use tricks for small time saves throughout the run. Stuff like using pop shots to kill the Margwas, jumping over the door to access closed off areas, throwing an Arnie so he could fill up the egg while doing a beast mode, but would lose tons of time by doing unnecessary stuff, like hitting the box with an immolation and making wrong turns. This run would get beaten again by 26 seconds with many of the same flaws by a player called Bartle, but just 2 months later, Jeff would return. One of the fastest ways to move around in Black Ops 3 is with the slide hop, and Jeff used this wherever he can, implementing his new route which would become the standard in SOE speedrunning for years to come. He implemented new time saves such as restarting for Nero so that he could get the sword upgrade in the same room as the book, which he would need to click on after. Checking one of the sword symbols by jumping at this corner in canals, you couldn't see the whole symbol, but with just the top half, you could determine which symbol it was. This trick meant the tram would only need to be ridden once to get all 3 symbols, as you could see the other 2 symbols with just one ride from Footlight to Waterfront. This run was pretty good for early 2016, as the game had not been out very long, and later patches which would make the game easier had not yet come out. However, there were many cases where he would get stuff from the flag step to make it easier rather than attempting the flag step without it, such as the Apothicon Servant and the Civil Protector, and about 2 months later, a player named King Corpse would beat this time by about 3 minutes. With the latest patch making the gun machine free to spin, adding more gobble gums, making the Arcovum step only spawn a maximum of 2 Margwas on the 2nd, 3rd and 4th location, and allowing the Margwa to open multiple heads at once, Corpse was able to improve the run by a substantial margin, while also cleaning up the run with better round management and improved routing. After some back and forths between Jeff and King Corpse, something would happen. A brand new gobblegum would change the speedrunning stage as we knew it. Raindrops, a Frankenstein's monster of 9 gobblegums into one, with 2 activations made the most versatile and game-changing gobblegum. It allowed for a much quicker round end at the beginning and also provided the player with points needed to open the map. It would also replace the fatal contraption gobblegum, a gum that was only used for the boss fight. This run by King Corpse at the beginning of August 2017 would be the debut run of this new tool and would show how much time could be shaved off. Round ends were far easier as the runner now had 2 gum slots which provided a nuke. It was the start of something new, and this new start would be beaten 2 days later. For the last year, the world record had only been held by 2 people. It wasn't until the 11th of August when a very popular high rounds player would enter the scene with a sub 29, Steve. Steve would achieve this feat by implementing better round ending strategies of isolating spawns into the ritual rooms after doing each arc over the flag. This was important because the steps would round lock a total of 7 times during this run, meaning round end was very important to get done as quickly and as consistently as possible. To isolate the spawns, Steve would go inside, making the outside area not possible for zombies to spawn in anymore, and despawning any that are far away from the ritual room. He would also not build the Civil Protector or the Apothecon Servant during the run, saving a lot of time. It was a new standard for the speedrun that it was important not to do anything that was unnecessary and would bring a new age for Shadows. The world record would stand for another 4 months before a new player by the name of Scotty Dogs, Acid Vision as he was known back then, would come along and shave off 10 seconds from Steve's time. Then another 22 seconds a month later. Then would beat his own record another 4 times, lowering it all the way to a 26:32. An incredible time with new methods for executing the steps of the Easter egg. One changed the KRM. He started using the Pack-a-Punch KRM to kill the Margwars instantly while they were spawning in, meaning he didn't have to use pop shocks every time. He would also clean up the movement and the routing along with better RNG out of any run at that point. It would stand for 2 years unbeaten, securing Scotty as one of the top dogs, at least until the 26th of October, when Steve would return, and he would return with a revolution.
Steve!
This was the first time a Shadows of Evil world record was done on PC, and this would set a new standard as all future speedruns would be done on the PC. This is because it was discovered that the developers had left a fast restart function in the game for testing purposes, which could be binded to a key by going into the binding files and can be used to instantly restart the game at just a click of a button. This was important because of how much RNG was required at the start of every run. The restarts for Shadows of Evil were starting to get more strict. You would be restarting for Nero character, which is a 1 out of 4, Raindrop's first gum, which is a 1 out of 5, and Tram to be a footlight, which is a 1 out of 3. This isn't even beginning to mention the RNG required to get a top level run, bugs on round 5, meatballs on round 9, good spawns for the soul boxes. It was getting more and more improbable as the speedrun got more and more optimized, making the switch to PC even more necessary.
Let's go!
With the birth of PC speedrunning, Scotty was able to take back the record in just 5 days, getting the first sub 26, then 10 days later, a 25:16. Using a new spawn manipulation trick found at canals, normally zombies are spawned by picking a random player on the map and spawning at a random spawn location within a certain radius of that player. It was not known at the time how this trick worked, but it was figured out that if you stood in the corner by these boxes for 5 seconds, then go to this window and stare at the door where zombies spawn, the entire round would spawn there. With this trick he could save 30 seconds and remove the spawn RNG of one of the most spread out spawn areas on the map. The sub 25 was coming up quick, and Scotty knew he had a good chance of breaking that minute barrier too, just as he did for the previous 3 minute barriers. And on October 10th he would have his chance. Unfortunately, on that run, he did not get the sub 25 due to playing it safe on the round end of the third flag where he did not nuke. He was just hair's breadth away from the sub 25. Unfortunately, a familiar runner would return again to break the minute barrier, and he did it with a new trick: box grapple.
Are you fucking kidding me? What the fuck? You really just... If that somehow saves you a second or so, I guess it's worth it.
You're right, Lex. It was worth it. Grappling in Shadows of Evil does not have a distance limit on how far you can grapple from, and because of this, Steve was able to find a quicker method for completing the Footlight Beast mode. Normally you'd have to shock open the door from the bottom, then hook up and melee the box, then run over to a balcony on the other side to grapple over to the burlesque. However, he found that you could improve this by meleeing the box, then grappling from the box and shock open the door while the grapple is travelling. This was substantial and was the start of a long line of new tricks that would be found on Shadows of Evil. The very next day, Scotty would implement this new trick into his speedruns and would come out with a very impressive 24:38, a time which took Steve's run and polished out the movement and the round control, a run which he and his chat were very hyped about.
Yes! We did it!
But Steve wouldn't go down so easy, as he would return one last time with a massive trick that made box grapple look boring: tramless. Up to this point, the sword symbols would be acquired by checking the canal symbol, as stated before, and riding the tram for the other two, while Steve was about to change that by rerouting Footlight and Waterfront. Steve found you could check Waterfront by jumping on a roof after meleeing the box. Footlight would be found to be a bit more tricky as the symbol was facing away from the map in an unplayable part of the map with no easy route to it. Fortunately, the roof on top of that building has a solid hitbox which the player could walk on as long as the player is in beast mode as to not die from the death barrier. But how do you get up there? Well, you can get up there by walking up this wire to the top of the building, then jumping onto that roof. Then you can jump off the other side and look at the symbol while falling. This trick was extremely difficult and took lots of practice, but could be done consistently. Once combined with his grapple trick from before, he could do everything as before and also check the symbol, all in one beast mode. With that, Steve saved 20 seconds on Rift segment by removing the tram ride. 2 days later, Scotty would beat this run by just 4 seconds using the new tramless route. Then 2 days later, he would shave off 20 more seconds. He was getting very close to breaking another minute barrier. It would be 2 months before he would get another run, but on the 17th of January 2021, he would get this run. It was staggering how one player could dominate a map so much. It seemed that nobody was on his level. The world record was now at 23:55, and there was little room for improvement left. The only noticeable time saves available was when he got a bad Anywhere But Here after third arc ovum. Wait, Anywhere But Here? That's not used in runs, is it? This was the first world record to feature the classic Gobblegum Anywhere But Here, instantly teleport to a random location. A Gobblegum which would introduce some heavy randomness into the speedrun, but if the luck went your way, would accumulate a lot of time save. He would replace the Pop Shocks Gobblegum and fully commit to killing the Margwas with just the KRM. But this was just the prelude to bigger changes coming to the Shadows of Evil speedrun, as someone would come back with a new route. Steve, right? No. Not this time. A new player who started off playing Cold War, who goes by the username Scrappy, had already taken the 2-player world record just a few days after Scotty's 23 and was grinding for the solo world record as well. He would achieve this on the 20th of January, and he did this with a brand new route. This new route was originally designed for 80% runs. That is, runs where any and all glitches and features in the run were allowed, with the main ones being round skipping. Scrappy would adapt this route for use in solo mega runs. The new route would incorporate completing the rituals and getting the sword at the same time, with tricks like filling the egg from behind the sofa and using the keepers from ritual items in the filling. All of these meant that you could start the Arcovum step on round 5 instead of round 6. Why does this matter? Because round 6 was a bug round, and starting a round earlier meant a far quicker round end on the second ovum. This saved a huge amount of time. Scrappy used this new route to beat Scotty's time by 4 seconds and become the world record holder for the first time. But this wouldn't be his last. What would come is a mad dash to beat the record with this new strat. Just hours later, Scrappy would beat his own time, getting a 23:33. However, he would not use anywhere but here, instead opting to use pop shocks, which would lose him time. Scotty would beat this run with ABHs, getting the sub 23, just mere hours after Scrappy's 23:33. He incorporated the new run and got some incredible teleports from the Anywhere But Here, setting in stone himself at the top of the leaderboard again. All of this took place on the same day. Scrappy was right on Scotty's tail for a month, slowly perfecting the new strategy, and would eventually surpass Scotty on the 1st of March, while almost dying in the boss fight. The main time saves in this run was not nuking the flags and not getting a nuke power for the waterfront round end. He would beat this run 10 days later, shaving off a massive 29 seconds from his previous world record. Using a second Anywhere But Here gobblegum will give him additional time save, all 4 of which were very good, getting very close to his ideal destinations. And this was also the first run which didn't use raindrops for the boss fight, instead opting to kill the Shadow Man with the KRM and hold an ABH to teleport to the rift instead. This would all culminate in Scrappy getting the sub 22 on the 13th of March, after getting a good gum cycle and perfect Anywhere But Here at the end of the run. After this run, Scrappy would stop grinding the solo Megas world record and pursue other boards. Scotty would then take the world record back with a 21:50 before also leaving Shadows to pursue another board. This left Shadows of Evil empty for many months. The reason that Shadows of Evil suddenly became so unpopular is because of restarts. You would be restarting for Nero and Rain as before, but the Beast mode at the beginning would have to be done every time you restart, meaning it would take you on average 6 minutes to get the raindrops and begin the run. You would also have 50-50 chance of having to restart 4 minutes into the run because you require bugs on round 6. With this strategy. And to get a world record speedrun, you needed a good gum cycle and good Anywhere But Here's. And to say they were rare was an understatement. Another reason for the map's sudden desertion was because Scrappy had developed a mod which would give the player fixed RNG, and with this mod he got a sub 21. People were unmotivated to beat the 21:50 because of Scrappy's sub 21 that he achieved on patch. Remember when Scrappy beat the 2-player world record back in January? Well, his teammate, a player called Freckleston, was rapidly improving his Black Ops 3 skills, and after stating publicly that he was going to start grinding for SOE, Scotty started getting nervous, and this would be the spark that would get the boards rolling again. 18 days after the announcement, Scotty would get a 21:35 using a new spawn manipulation strategy for the egg locations. It was figured out how the canal spawns manipulation from the old record worked. The launch maps of Black Ops 3 have a unique quirk in the way that zombies spawn in, meaning they are the only maps which feature any form of spawn manipulation. The way it works is whenever a zombie is despawned, either by having the player go too far away or some other variety of reasons, when they've respawned, the location they respawn at can be influenced by where the player looks chunks. This only works for respawners and will not work for a zombie's initial spawn. With this trick, Scotty shaved off 15 seconds and lowered the world record. Would this be enough to stop Freckleston? Freckleston was on the SOE grind and was working his way down towards Scotty's time. Eventually he would get his first world record on the 26th of January with a 21:33, beating Scotty's time by just 2 seconds. The most notable time saves in this run was his anywhere but here's, which were quite bad. Getting worst possible for the first anywhere but here, getting a mid-tier for second, a below average for third, and a good fourth. His other main time saves were taking quite a while to kill the final Magua on the final arc ovum. This run was a display of how much lower the record could be, and Freckleston would not stop now. It is also worth mentioning that the 5th anywhere but here from final flag to rift was no longer luck based, as it was discovered that if you used it once the keeper had fully formed, you would be guaranteed to teleport to the boss fight arena. About a month would go by before Freckleston would beat his time by 4 seconds, with a very different run. The first anywhere but here was good, the second one was average, third one was good, and the final one was perfect. Overall, pretty good luck on that department, but his time loss would come from a bad zombie spawn after first ovum, losing him 20 seconds. 2 runs which had the potential to be almighty, but would be RNG'd out. What would happen if you took the anywhere but here luck of the second run and the spawn luck of the first run? What sort of run would you get? The day finally came where Freckleston would get the RNG needed to pull out an incredible time. First ABH was good, second ABH was perfect, third ABH was perfect, fourth ABH was second from perfect. A near flawless run, with only primary time loss being a slow final ovum due to running out of ammo, meaning a sub 21 is only a matter of time. And that is where the record stands today. Thanks for watching.